Hello. I know I'm 2 years late talking about this, but they say better late than never. So they say. Anyway, I'm here to talk about planes, trains, and automobiles. Yes, I know I already reviewed it on my channel. And it is a perfect Thanksgiving film. I have it on DVD. I watch it every Thanksgiving. Well, the month of Thanksgiving. And I thought Steve Martin and John Candy played their roles with perfection. They played a lot of heart and comedy to it. And they both did it very well. And I was surprised to hear that they're thinking about remaking this film with Kevin Hart and Will Smith. Well, that was 2 years ago. I don't know if they're thinking about Will Smith now after They probably still could be thinking about it. Or I looked it up on Google and they said it's still in the works. My question to that is, and not that I'm against Will Smith and Kevin Hart, I think they could be good in this role. Both have proven to be very talented and versatile in anything they've done. The question is, why? There are some things you just can't remake. That shouldn't be remade. They're just perfect in films in their own right. I mean, how can you top the performances of when let's say the scene where John Candy and Steve Martin are arguing in a hotel room and Steve Martin just comes down on John Candy pretty hard with his words. You kind of see John Candy's face just looking sadder and sadder as the scene goes on. And what John Candy says afterwards, yes, I'm an easy target. I talk too much. I listen too much. But I am who I am, and what you see is what you get. He plays it with such perfection, and I'm surprised he wasn't nominated for an Oscar for just that one scene. He does it so beautifully. You feel for the guy. And I like the scene even when Steve Martin even feels bad, even saying the bad words to him. He doesn't say that, but we all know he's thinking it. I would hate to think that Will Smith and Kevin Hart could really replicate that scene and not come across as a cheap imitator. I mean, if you do it that good that first time, doing it with different actors just will come across as a bad imitation. If they could come across with interesting dialogue or change up the characters, maybe. But if you're going to do it if you're going to do it as a remake, a shot for shot, it's going to look like a poor imitation. I'm sure we all remember Gus Van Sant's Psycho. Almost. Some of us. Now, and why would you want to remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? This premise has been redone so many times after Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Want a few examples? The 1991 film Dutch, starring Ed O'Neill. I'm sure you remember that movie. Let's see Forces of Nature, starring Ben Affleck and Sandra Bullock. Oh, and let's not forget Due Date, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Zach Galifianakis. That was a funny film, by the way, but they all took the premise of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and made it into their own movies. See, this has been remade so many times. Why remake something that's pointless? It was a good film. I see it every Thanksgiving. I think I mentioned that, didn't I? I don't know why. They're wasting their energy. I think they should not do a remake of this film. If they're going to do a remake, guess what? I'm not going to see it. Or maybe I will see it to see if it's actually any good. But I don't know. Now, I'm not saying some remakes are all bad. Some people say the movie Cape Fear was better than the original. I disagree, but that's just my opinion. They remade Miracle on 34th Street as overly sappy, and I remember watching the original Miracle on 34th Street and thinking it was more light on its feet than the over the top sappiness of the remake. See, I don't know if this Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is going to be a remake or a reboot, but I can't. I don't see them making it. They think they can make it as good as the original, what was written and directed by John Hughes. Now, what made John Hughes good? I mean, he wrote a very long screenplay of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. If there was going to be a full cut of the movie ever coming, it'd be over 3 hours longer here. He had to edit it down to about 92 minutes. It means he had to take out a lot of stuff. Like, the state trooper scene where Michael McKean plays a state trooper, and there was more dialogue than what we saw in the cut version. We saw, and then the fact, they actually went past Chicago, and Neil gets upset at Dell, and I think he slugs him. That's probably why you see. Dell have a bruised eye in that scene. There's no explanation why he has a bruised eye in the uncut version, but in that cut version there was. Oh, how about the scene where Neil and Dell have to go to a strip club to make a phone call, and Neil's wife, who I think played a bigger role in the uncut, in the full version, thinks Dell is somebody he made up just to hide the fact he's having an affair with a woman. But you see her big surprise at the end to find out, he was telling the truth the entire time. Dell was actually a guy after all. Was much to her gladness, he was not having an affair. And there's a scene where he goes back for Dell and discovers that his wife actually died. Spoiler alert. And they have a talk at a diner, and Dell tells them an entire story. I guess there's so much more. There's scenes on the airplane where he's actually trying to eat his dinner on the airplane, and a lot of things go wrong, of course. Won't go into details if you've seen the uncut and cut version, but I guess some things you got to edit down, because if the movie was doubted too long, you make a 3-hour comedy. I don't know if anybody would want to sit through a 3-hour comedy about two guys trying to struggle to go 2 days home for Thanksgiving. And I'm happy with the film we got, although there were a few moments that you just kind of noticed that were never explained, like Dell's bruised eye at the very end. Well, where'd that come from? It just comes out of nowhere. You just, like I said, you see him get in a truck and you see him with a bruised eye, and audience is like, where did that come from? Probably, but no, they're probably not going to ask that. I really hope they don't. I hope it's just talk. I can't see them remaking this. This is just timeless. This is just a classic in its own right. I just can't see it. I really can't. Okay, that's my thoughts on my thoughts on why I think the remake of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles would be a waste of time. What are your thoughts? Please feel free to share with me. And have a happy Thanksgiving.